Alright, just finished the video about my library, so a lot of the books are sitting down here, so sorry about the backdrop. Now about Baruch de Spinoza. Donation by a viewer requested a video about Spinoza, and it just so happens that both of the books that I have on Spinoza, one of them's by and one is on Spinoza if I remember correctly, are both in Utah, of course. So, I looked up some stuff on him online, listened to a couple of videos about him, and here's a few notes that I've taken down. So take this as a teaser for what in the future will be a close analysis of his philosophy in the same sort of way that I'm doing Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics and so on. So Spinoza was born in 1632, died 1677. He was a Dutch philosopher of Portuguese Jewish origin. Now you may know about the colonies, or pardon me, the cities up there, the cities of Amsterdam and so on. They were the Netherlands, the lowlands were trading companies. Belgium, they were trading cultures, so they relied on commerce, and they had a freer sort of atmosphere about them. They had you had more rights, you had more liberties and stuff if you lived in these areas, and they therefore tolerated minority groups more readily. Now, back then, the state allowed each religious group to have its own set of religious laws according to their religious rules. And Spinoza was, when he was 23, I believe, he was excommunicated from Jewish society because of all the terrible stuff that he taught and said. Now, he was an important pre-Enlightenment thinker. He set up the grounds for the Enlightenment. He was an early practitioner of biblical criticism, criticizing the Bible, one of the first out there. There were people who had done it before, but they weren't likely to have been heard from, and were normally burned at the stake. All of his works were listed on the Index Librorum Prohibitorum, the list of banned books or prohibited books. He had a Leonard Peikoff, I'm pretty sure. It was either Ayn Rand or Leonard Peikoff who described his philosophy as an egoistic justification for ethics. In other words, everything that you do ethically should be motivated by some desire to help yourself in some way. Now, he had lots of complex ways to turn that around and say, therefore, you want society to be, you want everyone in society to be of a higher education level if possible, and you want society to be more tolerant and, forward thinking and stuff. So you have a selfish reason to try to affect other people in a positive way, in what you see as a positive way. So for him, selfishness and egoism didn't mean isolation. It meant very much interacting with other people and trying to improve them and stuff. But nonetheless, his basic justification was egoistic, and according to Peikoff, he fails, and according to Rand's, Ayn Rand would give you a morality even if you were on a desert island by yourself. Now, I don't know if Spinoza's would hold up that way or not. I'm going to have to look into it for myself later, but just saying a few things right now. He died at the age of 44, possibly as kind of young, possibly from silicosis, a problem in the lungs because he was a lens grinder, and you inhale a lot of glass and dust, and that doesn't help your lungs. Now, his ethics, published posthumously, was modeled on Euclid's Elements, Euclid's Elements of Geometry. I'm sure you're familiar, where he goes over a whole bunch of postulates or axioms or statements that are obviously true or whatever to begin with, or definitions. The definitions, he goes through a bunch of definitions. And Spinoza's ethics, which I haven't read myself, are modeled on Euclid's Elements. And so it uses a lot of mathematical ideas, equivocation, we have to say, because he is talking about ethics and stuff, and he wanted to put a mask of science on it, of hard science on ethics. So that's why he used one of the greatest Greek mathematic writers there was. Now, Spinoza equated God with nature. You're going to hear him called, if you talk to people, you'll hear him called an atheist on one hand, or a pantheist on the other. It's pretty clear to philosophers who aren't dishonest, I think, that he was an atheist. He said, yeah, there's a God, but he doesn't do anything, and he's nowhere. He's everywhere, and he does nothing, and he's everything, and he does everything, and we don't have to worry about what he says or thinks, because he's just everything. He's just nature. So, kind of like Aristotle's prime mover, who's there to keep him from getting in too much trouble. On a closer reading, I may come to the conclusion that Spinoza does believe in God, but from what I've read and heard, it seems to me as if it's the dishonest people who are saying that he's a pantheist and he believes God is everywhere. And the more honest readings of Spinoza say, well, yeah, he said that, but really there's no room for anything religious. There's no religion at all anywhere in his writings and philosophy and so forth. You cannot shoehorn any teeny tiny bit of mysticism in. So to say that he believes in a God is stretching it. So, there's my take on that at this point in time. He rejected the mind-body dichotomy. He was writing just around the time of and after Descartes. And Descartes was very much into the mind-body dualism, which Spinoza bought into early on, but later in life he rejected it. And he said everything is one, and if there is a spiritual realm or whatever, it's tied in part and parcel with the material realm, and it's all just reality. Here is the one thing that I haven't been able to reconcile myself with. He was a determinist. I can't come around. I'm not a determinist. I mean, maybe I could understand on his comprehension of the matter, he had to be a determinist. But he believed that freedom was, we have the illusion of free will, right? And that was simply our ability to understand and accept the events of the real world. Freedom was nothing more than our ability to come to grips with the fact that we're not in control and that we are not free. But he was a determinist. He believed everything happened of necessity. Things were the way they were because that's how they had to be. And therefore, we don't really have freedom in producing them. All we have the freedom is to understand why these things had to be that way. Alright, so there's what I can say about Spinoza for the time being. Stay tuned in the future. I don't know when I get a book by him, or I'm able to get more of my books shipped from Utah, or visit Utah and ship a bunch of my books, so probably months in coming. But Spinoza is a fantastic and interesting philosopher for you to look into on your own in the meantime, if you care to.